Good morning, everyone. Appreciate you being here for the first trade and tariff webinar of the year. As you know, we do these weekly, every Friday morning at 9:30. There's going to continue to be plenty to talk about. We were actually expecting a potential the results of the Supreme Court's hearing on tariffs, the legality of tariffs this morning. Doesn't look like it's going to be today, but certainly still could be. But we'll be on top of that, and we'll keep you apprised. But I'm just so pleased. I'm Jonathan Freedman. For any that may not know me, CEO of World Trade Center Utah. And I just first want to thank my team and the Utah Chamber for all the work that has been done with this weekly webinar over the last nearly 12 months. And we've really worked hard. It's been a heavy lift, but we want to make sure that Utah companies have the best information to operate your businesses. Amidst uncertainty, things are out of your control, and economics of a business can easily change. I was an entrepreneur for many years, and understand I had orders placed a year in advance, and I had everything budgeted, and all of a sudden things change, and that can be not just disruptive, but really painful. And so we're here as a resource. We want to support you in every single way possible. We love the ingenuity and that we see across our state. And anyway, and here with me today, we have Derek Miller. We've Ben Kolendar, Derek Miller, President and CEO of the Utah Chamber. Ben Kolendar, Chief of Staff at World Trade Center Utah. So, and we're going to have a great discussion today. So, let's see where. You can also, I wanted to mention, you can watch previous webinars on our YouTube channel. So be sure to look that up on World Trade Center Utah's YouTube and subscribe to that. So we're excited today to start with Ben Kolendar, just with any updates on the World Trade Center Utah Tariff dashboard that he and the team have meticulously kept updated. Ben, why don't I hand it over to you before Derek and I have a conversation?
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. I am pulling up my screen. Can everybody see the dashboard? We good?
Yes.
All right. So for those who may be attending the first time, as Jonathan mentioned, we keep our dashboard up to date with all the latest tariff updates. I'm going to walk through these and use my screen, and so everyone can see the updates as we go. But you can always access this link and follow along at wtcutah.com/tariffs. Not only does it have the updates, but it also has a link to join these webinars, so you can obviously, if you're on this webinar, you know how to access that. But if you want to share this with somebody else, you can click this link and share that with others who may benefit from these briefings. So, to start, the biggest news out of this morning was that there is no news. Many of us were anticipating this morning that the Supreme Court may have a ruling on tariffs this morning, as Jonathan mentioned. That did not come out as expected by many in the press. And so we were following that, prepared to have some information for our business community, but the rulings did not include tariffs on the release this morning. We'll keep an eye on the future Supreme Court briefings, and this news comes up quick. So we'll be sure to keep our business community apprised of any updates along that front for any of the Supreme Court tariff decisions. A few other quick updates. Another, maybe not big one, but one that our business community should be aware of, and it's sort of related to the Supreme Court tariffs in that Customs and Border Protection is shifting so that their refund system is going to become purely electronic. So there will be no more paper refunds coming through customs. And many people are predicting that this is, aligned with the potential that the Supreme Court may have a ruling that would require customs to issue refunds. And so that this is sort of a measure that can help with that process if and when that decision does come down from the Supreme Court. So, a few quick updates relating to countries. India has been in the news lately, so this is one that we've kept an eye on closely. So, just to bring everybody up to speed, where we stand now with India is that there is a 25% IEEPA tariff on India that's sort of a base tariff. And in addition to that, there's a 25% tariff for importing Russian oil. So this was in the press a lot this week because there was a threat from the Trump administration that countries importing Russian oil may face an increased tariff up to 500%. And so this would raise the India tariff from where it stands now at 50% up to 525%. So it's something that we're going to continue to monitor and update everyone on. But if you're doing business in India, you may want to keep an eye on this tariff threat in particular. So moving down the line, another update that we have is that the on December 31st, many of us were expecting some additional tariffs on furniture. So kitchen cabinets, upholstered furniture, vanities, things like that were supposed to take effect on January 1st, 2026, which was last week. And what happened was that there was a decision signed that delayed that tariff increase until January 1st, 2027. So this doesn't change the tariffs in effect now on these categories. So on those 232 tariffs, it ranges from 10% to 25%. So those still remain in effect, but the expected increases were not implemented and in fact are delayed. So the last update we'll give before handing it back to Jonathan and Derek is we continue to monitor the poly market on the Supreme Court and what the odds are there. So, just as a recap, we were up to a 48% chance that the tariffs were going to be decided in such a way that it would favor this tariff regime prior to the oral arguments. The oral arguments, took place in November 5th. And then from then on, the range has been between 23 and 28% odds that these tariffs will be seen favorably by the Supreme Court and allowed to be implemented as is. Right now, that's no different. It's about 26% as of this morning. So those are the odds that these tariffs are going to continue to be implemented as is, and the Supreme Court will give that the ruling in that way. So so we'll continue to monitor that. That may have changed drastically this morning. We may not have even needed the poly market had this information been released by the Supreme Court, but the ruling did not come out. So we'll continue to monitor the poly market as well and just see what the odds are that these tariffs remain implemented as they are now. So with that, back to you, Jonathan and Derek.
Great. All right. Thank you, Ben. Appreciate that. And again, I just want to thank Ben and the team for keeping that updated. We've heard from companies outside of our state that local agencies within other states have pointed them to our tariff dashboard on our website. So we're just so proud of that, value proposition, that not only Utah companies are utilizing, but elsewhere as well. Um, Derek Miller, President and CEO of the Utah Chamber, a good friend and has an affinity to our organization because he's the former CEO. He really helped shape World Trade Center Utah, so it's fun to have you on the call, Derek, and have this conversation with you. Uh, Perhaps I just maybe kick it off by laying the groundwork a bit. We started this together nearly a year ago in response to anxieties that we knew the tariffs were on the horizon even before the Trump administration took office or came into office. So um, we wanted to be prepared, right, and hit the ground running. So as 2025 unfolded, what did the chamber hear from local businesses? And then how did those initial concerns play out?
Thanks, Jonathan. It's great to be with you. And thanks, Ben, for that overview. I just had to smile when you talked about the following the poly markets. I hope you're not betting on them too. Following's okay. And Jonathan, I forgot what a beautiful view it is out of that office. I miss that view. So, first of all, let me just say how grateful we are here on behalf of the chamber as well as the broader business community for everything that the World Trade Center does, especially in this area of monitoring the tariffs. You and I, Jonathan, we have really cool jobs because everything we do and every day we go to work and what we think about at night is how we can help Utah businesses. And you specifically look at, of course, in the realm of international business, but thinking about this webinar, and now it's been going on weekly for a year, we all know that businesses crave two things. And one is certainty, and the other is stability. And over this past year, they've had anything but those two things as it relates to the world of international business and specifically trade and tariffs. So the next best thing that you can have is timely and accurate information. And that is what helps you manage the risk of uncertainty and instability. So I'm really proud of the work of our two teams at the Chamber and the World Trade Center to be able to do this webinar weekly. And especially I'm grateful to Ben because I know he's been the one who's been monitoring this and giving these updates, and not just in this webinar, but to the dashboard as well. To answer your question specifically, Jonathan, about what have we seen from businesses, I would say it this way. Every economist that I heard from, listened to, read what they wrote, predicted that the Liberation Day tariffs would destroy the economy, that we'd see runaway inflation, and that the businesses were going to be hurt dramatically. We haven't seen that happen yet. And there's a few reasons for that. One of them, I was actually talking to the current chair of the Utah Chamber right now, Jeremy Hafen, who's the president of Clyde Companies, and they do lots of business around the Western U.S., including in Utah in lots of areas, but it's primarily heavy civil. So you think about price of those inputs, concrete, lumber, et cetera, et cetera. And what Jeremy told me is analogous to what I've been hearing from lots of companies in Utah, is that they're not seeing the price increases because the suppliers are eating the costs so far. But that can't continue. It just can't. It's what they're doing is trying to buy time to see how the dust settles. Part of the dust settling is this Supreme Court ruling that we expected today, that we hopefully will see soon. Part of the dust settling is just the negotiations. I'm a believer that President Trump views himself as the ultimate negotiator, and it's apparent to everyone, if it wasn't already, that his negotiating style is with a big stick. And it's going to be 150% tariff. It's going to be 50%. It's going to be 15 and ends up somewhere less than that. But it's an interesting negotiation tactic. So that's part of the dust settling. And then the third thing I would mention that's part of the dust settling is one of the reasons that we haven't seen the inflationary impact that all the economists anticipated is sadly because there's been a decrease in demand. So if demand had stayed the same and the supply got messed up, the result would have been inflation. It's a mathematical equation. But the supply chain got messed up because of the tariffs and the threats of tariffs, but we didn't see the inflation, which means the third element of the mathematical equation that had to change was demand. And unfortunately, we have seen internationally a decrease in demand. And it's nice that we didn't see high inflation, but at the cost of reduced demand, which is just another way of saying reduced economic growth. That's unfortunate. That's not a positive. So
Yeah.
this is what we're hearing from Utah businesses, but in that sort of macroeconomic sense.
Yeah. Let me just say that the Clyde Company example I thought was really interesting, and we have seen the president, uh, want to work with big boxes, for example, to keep prices down. He really pushed them on increasing prices and absorbing those costs. And but you know for but our economy, which is an elite economy, incredibly diverse, that's a huge advantage for us. Um, we are susceptible to tariffs because we're small and medium sized enterprises. And so it's tough for a smaller operation, as you know, to absorb those costs. And so invariably costs have to be passed on. And here's my fear, whether it's already happened or is happening in the process or yet to happen, that once those costs, and I did this as myself as an entrepreneur, when I had to increase costs because of the first round of tariffs in 2018 in Trump one administration, it's so painful that and we bore a lot of those expenses ourselves, but then we had to pass some on to the customer. And then what we found was that a lot of companies were padding those increases so that in case there was further uncertainty or further action, you wouldn't have to continue to keep increasing prices.
You know, you we probably should have started here, Jonathan, but both of us are so familiar with this that we maybe take it for granted, but we shouldn't. And that is what a strong international business state Utah is. We have tens of thousands of businesses, mostly small businesses, as you said, who are involved in international markets every day in their business. It's a testament and a tribute to the entrepreneurial spirit of Utahns. And as you know, also, so I'm not saying this for your sake, but for those who are on this webinar, that Utah is a top 10 export state, which, in and of itself is amazing for Utah. But then when you consider that we are not along a sea coast, we don't have a seaport, the Great Salt Lake doesn't count. Those ships just go around in a circle. But we're a smaller state located somewhere in the middle of the Rocky Mountains that a lot of people probably couldn't find on a map if they had to. But yet we're a top 10 export state with tens of thousands of businesses, small businesses exporting. It's just really cool. Um, and it's a strength to our economy, but it also puts us, as you said, at heightened risk of what we see happening in the realm of trade today. So, on that note, Jonathan, I want to ask you a question, if that's okay. Um, the chamber, just like the World Trade Center Utah, is engaged with advocating for businesses every day. We do that at the chamber on a local level, on a state level, and a national level. And although I know that the World Trade Center is not engaged in lobbying efforts, you are certainly engaged in education and awareness efforts. So what has been your priority, the priority of your team over this past year as it relates on a federal level with tariffs and trade?
Yeah, thank you. Again, I'm so proud of our team for really springing to action. Even before, as I mentioned, President Trump took office for the second time. Uh, Examples like partnering with the Utah Chamber on this trade and tariff webinar weekly. As I said, that was a heavy lift. The trade dashboard as well. So proud of that. We worked with Salt Lake City to transfer the foreign trade zone to World Trade Center Utah, as we're working with companies every day that are working internationally. That is a powerful tool out of the Department of Commerce that can really change the economics for a business. And we've seen exponential growth on that from where it was. And again, we're just so grateful to Salt Lake City for partnering and seeing that potential. And if our team could spearhead that, so that's a exciting development. Just bringing thought leadership to the state from DC and from around the world has been invaluable for companies that we engage with, whether it's a visiting diplomat or a tech delegation or a manufacturing delegation. Connecting them with Utah companies around the state have been really helpful. In that, along that same lines, uh, organizing the governor's trade missions abroad have been very powerful. And even other business trips without the governor, sometimes we ask legislative leaders to join us. It's always helpful to have state representation because it opens doors for businesses and grants access to high level government officials abroad. We were in India a few months ago, and it was a game changer for the businesses that were with us. One, I probably shouldn't mention names, but one that has currently $100 million facility in China and was ready to double that presence, expand that campus in China. And right when about a year ago, and then got spooked, came to us and just said, what do you think we should do? And we said, I do not think that you should expand that campus. Let's look for another location. We brought them to India. They said, we wish that we had come here 12 years ago. And now that just fit their product, not just manufacturing and importing, but also opening that export market up. It's looks like a real game changer for their business. One example, and that's a big company. We work with smaller companies so often as well, but just bringing access to Utah, whether it's inbound or outbound, and then advocating in Washington, D.C., much like you do with the federal delegation and other agencies. Utah Chamber is just fantastic at that. We advocate with our U.S. Trade Representative, worked really closely with him. He's a BYU graduate, is a big fan of this state, and
And a big fan of yours too.
he's
Tells me all the time what a great job you're doing.
well, thanks. He, he's in a tough spot, and he's negotiating all these trade deals around the world, right? And but wants I can tell you by working with him closely, he really wants the best for our companies here in Utah, and is is in our is on our side, which wants us to be able to grow. So I would just give those as top examples, kind of top of my head of what we're doing now and what we intend to just lean in on and continue doing in 2026.
Jonathan and Derek, if I can jump in, one theme, Jonathan, that we've talked about a lot, and Derek as well, and I think it was so helpful to get this mindset early with the chamber when we did these webinars and when we've done the surveying of businesses, is, there was this pressing message all the way along of adapt, innovate, figure this out, and really the mindset of these webinars and the dashboard and everything and that we've been doing all along, and as well some of the policy stuff we've been communicating is go on offense, right? Like don't react and sit back, but get the latest information, get the best information you can, and figure out how to position against competitors in this climate of tariffs rather and seeing it as an opportunity rather than sitting back. So that's one theme that's resonated from early on in these conversations I thought I might highlight because it's resonated really well with our business community. And, I'm hearing that in the comments as well. So,
Yeah, that's a great point, Ben. And the same was true during the Great Recession, by the way. Even in contractions, it gives you an opportunity to gain market share. And we saw a lot of businesses, they didn't necessarily grow because we were in the Great Recession, but they set themselves up to be in a position of strength to grow once we came out, which is why Utah's economy came out of the Great Recession stronger and faster than any other economy. We did the same thing coming out of the COVID crisis. And hopefully because of our great entrepreneurs in the state, we'll do the same thing coming out of all this trade uncertainty.
Yeah, and I'll also add all good points there, Ben and Derek. I'll also add that a really special thing about Utah is how well different organizations and businesses collaborate. That is something you just don't see in other states, and we talk about it all the time when we're abroad, especially advocating for our state for foreign investment here. Is that it's a unique aspect. And anyway, I mean, I think of like the Utah Inland Port Authority, and as you're talking about, we're a top 10 export state, that is really a game changer that is, has, that is available to companies across the state in virtually every corner. And so, resources like that, access to, state leaders, our legislature is part-time. A lot of them are business owners. And so they really understand, in most cases, what it's like to, they're in our shoes, right? So keeping energy costs low and business-friendly regulations, these are all very, very helpful. So look, we just have a couple minutes left. I want to make sure that you have a chance to talk about the Utah Chamber's Summit that is happening next week. You have an Economic Outlook and Public Policy Summit. Would you tell us about that?
Yeah, that is a week from today on January 16th. We invite everyone, we encourage everyone. The bread and butter of what the chamber does is policy advocacy work on behalf of Utah businesses. And so if you want to find out what's happening, what might happen, what could happen during the legislative session that's going to start in just a couple weeks, come to the summit, go to the Utah Chamber website, find our policy guide. And, these are issues that are important, not just to businesses, they're important to everyone. They're what I call both water cooler topics as well as dinner table topics. But this is housing, this is cost of living, this is taxation. Utah's unfortunately found itself in the position of having one of the highest tax burden states in the country, which I never thought I'd see the day. But over time, we've just seen creep in property taxes. And even though the legislature has reduced the income tax, we've just seen the tax burden go up because as housing prices have gone up, people's property taxes have gone up, and that includes on the commercial side as well. But transportation, infrastructure, to your point, Jonathan, infrastructure drives economic development. The inland port will drive economic development in this state. It has been that way. It is true and proven true time and time again since the beginning of humankind. If you build it, they truly will come. And we've seen that, but we need to do better than that in our state. We need to do better at building more infrastructure so that we can get more homes and at lower cost. It's supply and demand. These are all the things that we're going to talk about at the summit next week.
Fantastic. I really look forward to that. Look, it's 10 o'clock. I want to thank Derek and Ben for participating today. It's always great to have you on, and thank you for great work you're doing for the companies here in our state. Thank you all for joining us, not just today, but for the last year. We will be back next Friday. Unless you're going to the summit, Derek's summit, make sure to prioritize that. But yeah, will continue to be a resource throughout this year weekly. And if you have any questions, please go email us. Go to our website, WTCutah.com. I just had the thought. I'll even put up my you can scan my personal information and reach out to me by email or phone. But anyway, we are here to help. We are a resource. We are a nonprofit, and we want the best for you and your business. So thank you for joining us. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, everyone. Great job. Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks, Ben.